Hey, Taylor.
Hello, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm all right today. Weather's cooling off here in Austin, Texas, where I am. Finally, we
Yeah,
had over 100 all summer.
I know my mom and sister live in San Antonio, and so
Oh goodness, yeah,
they've been,
melting.
yeah. Hey, I pinged you on we can talk about it later. I pinged you on Slack about a issue.
Okay.
So
Test suite or certification related.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
All right.
just the node drain. I have a question.
Are you available at 9:15 Central tomorrow?
Let me look. Yes, I am.
All right. We have a CNF test suite office hours
Okay.
just weekly at 9:15. If you hop on there, I'll make sure some of the team is on. And I know that there's been a bunch of updates, mainly dealing with stuff like Litmus, Chaos, and other uh, upstream project updates and trying to make stuff work. So it wouldn't be about node drain, but they can work with you on that.
Okay.
I'll point them to the Slack. Hey, Tom.
Oh yeah, you well?
All right, we'll get started here in just a minute. Okay. Does anyone have any items to add to the agenda today you'd like to talk about? Right. As a reminder, this call is recorded. Recordings are published to the CNCF's YouTube channel for the CNF working group. Right. KubeCon EU 2024 CFPs are open until November 26th. It's a little ways out, but the time catches up pretty quick. One Summit North America is open until December 3rd. If you're interested in either of those, I suggest start working on items ahead of time. Let's see. NFIO, Technical Steering Committee and Developer Summit. Tom, are y'all engaged in that closely, the NFIO stuff? Do y'all have someone on the TSC?
Yep. So my manager Ian is on the TSC.
Are they going to be joining that?
I think he might be doing a panel, but obviously we can't travel to California. So I think he's doing the panel remotely. But I'm not sure how many of the sessions are kind of available remotely or by video. So
All right.
we might struggle to join most of it.
Do you have or can you add a link for the panel? I'd like to try to schedule that when you get a chance.
Yeah, sure.
Let's see. The KCD Texas got canceled, unfortunately. Is the KCD UK still going? Do you know, Tom? You talking
I
about
had an
one?
email about it the other day, so I assume it's still going. Yeah.
Okay, great. I don't think those are allow remote though, do they?
They didn't last year. I went in person last year, but I won't be going this year.
Right. Okay, the Cloud Native Telco Day and coming up here in Chicago, the schedule's been published. Those that don't know that, let's see, what else do we have? I guess jumping into, do we have any new PRs? No. I'm not going to go through all the issues. We have quite a few, but I'll just see if we have any new ones. I guess this is the newest one, actually. Oh, okay. This would be good. So yeah, that's right. We merged the new single concern, but that pull request didn't add it. That's a good catch, Lucina. Just putting a link and starting to build this one out. I feel like there's a few that are missing. Okay, I gotta maybe look through that. We won't do that right now. Tom, I think you brought this up. Hey, Oliver, the co-chair nominations.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right. So I can't remember what we used before, some type of voting system that someone else had set up, some online voting. I think it was mainly used in Europe, and we went through that. But we first need to put people forward. So I think the last times that we did that, I don't think there's anything in here, I'm not seeing it, that say exactly what we did, but just putting it up on sending an email for nominations.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't really have it in here. It's very high level. So anyways, we can do some nominations. And I would say just sending an email seems good enough. That's how I still see it on some of the other groups.
Okay.
And we need to, thanks, Lucina. We need to send out an email, I guess, and just say we're doing it. Yeah,
Yeah,
here's
okay.
what
I'm,
Ian.
I'm happy to send a similar email as that out to the mailing list. That'll be fine. Stick it on Slack.
You'll send something out, Tom?
Yeah, if that's all right, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, go ahead and do it. I don't see why something just like this that mentions that we want to co-chair.
Yeah.
For the
I'll
different.
link to the governance page in GitHub as well.
I think we had one that said it a little different. It says Kubernetes, be cloud native or CNCF or whatever. So there's and it says CNF users. I thought it was like CNF developers. Oh, okay. CNF users, CNF developers, end users. Okay. The wording's a little weird. So, but you know what we want, Tom. So we want to adjust it. Welcome. See someone. Is it? Well, I don't know how to say your name. Kunleo.
Yeah, yeah, good evening. This is my first time of joining. Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Where are you from?
Yeah, I'm from Nigeria. Yeah, I was part of the zero to March cohort by Taylor, and so from there, getting to know more about the CNCF landscape and the community. So I think I went through some of and I wanted to join and see how to contribute and be part of this great community. So I'm a DevOps engineer, and so that's what I do.
And what company did you say you're with?
Yeah, Metalloids in Nigeria.
Okay, great. Can you please add your just name and company here at the top?
Okay.
Oh, and I'll drop the link.
The link. Okay.
Yeah, it's now on chat.
Okay, I've seen that. Okay, I'll do that.
All right.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And if you have any like specific items that you want to talk about, you can just add it right into this agenda section.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
All right. I'll move on to the next one. Let's see. Linux Foundation Etsy. I think this is just FYI. I dropped this. Did anyone else see this? Collaboration announcement. This was announced at the Open Source Summit Europe. Oliver, were you already aware of some of these?
I was not.
All right.
You mind throwing that link in the chat?
I can. It's in the
Oh,
document.
it's in the thing. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. All right. So, Tom, are y'all using any of this stuff like this, the cloud native function descriptor specifications that Etsy has? I know that the descriptors have been part of the VNF for quite a while.
I imagine we are, yes. We ask for Etsy specific, Etsy compliant descriptors to VNF and CNF vendors.
So some of this has to do with packaging, and some of it's, I guess interoperability for the packaging, and there's API stuff and everything else. I'm wondering, how that's going to tie in with projects like NFIO, and then if we look at custom projects like the DOS Chef with Flux, ops practices, and
so with Nefio, The I remember an early conversation with Google around that, and essentially they said that any kind of Etsy standards would just need to be a, you know, just another requirement. That is, so it's not a priority from their point of view, and if it's not a priority from the community's point of view, then it won't be done. It's essentially just another requirement. But my understanding of those descriptors is it's just a way of describing, as the name suggests, just a way of describing the functionality that a given CNF provides. It's not under the hood. They're still using things like Helm and whatever else to actually deploy the applications.
All right. I'm wondering, what, I guess, how we can, if we need to, and if there's something for us to look into for, I guess, complementing how that's going to work, or where there's going to be conflicts and pointing out. We weren't part of, I guess, the most recent plug test from Etsy. We had two of them where there was efforts to map CNF, CNCF, or CNF best practices and the Etsy standards around some of this, and some internal Etsy suggestions were made for some of them that would update, and then there was some conflicts pointed out. But it seems like there should be another round of that. I don't know if we should do something like that maybe on this side as well. Where there could be conflicts and where there could be, complementary efforts, what practices.
Yeah, it'd be good to see. I don't have a detailed enough view of everything to be able to answer that now, but yeah, I think that'd be useful.
Rich, are y'all doing Etsy, like compatibility with Etsy standards specific, especially things like that CNF descriptors and other items, because it seems like some of those are the implementation for how things fit together in a workload and how the system fits together.
Yeah, I know we align with them, with our VNFs. I need to look and see if we've carried that forward to how we're describing the CNFs. I need to dig into that a little bit more.
All right. I think this could be an area that we could dig into more. I'm going to move on for now unless someone has more questions or comments. All right. Does everyone here know about the NGMN, or anyone not know about this NGMN Cloud Native Manifesto? Is this new for someone? I think Tom, Vodafone's a signer, if I recall correctly, so you know about it. Rich, are you familiar with this?
Yeah, Ricardo, one of my colleagues, is one of the co-authors, I think, or part of it.
Yeah, we saw it when it came out. Looks like it was very comprehensive, and it seemed like it lined well with what the CNCF philosophy is around cloud native.
Higher level stuff, but opinionated for what they're wanting. I think it's pretty good that they're coming out with it. I don't know how much it's getting spread, especially in specifically in like North America, but good that F5's heard about it. Yeah, here's some of the companies. So we have Bell Canada and TELUS, as far as North America, that I recognize. So one of the things that we were talking about last time, and so we've merged a best practice, the single concern related best practice. We're looking what should be the next one to focus on as a group. Of course, anybody can work on any content for one, but as a group to have something that we can focus and try to push through, what would be the next practice? And we have some GitHub issues that we could always look at where different ones are here, this liveness probes, readiness probes, and some of them actually have a draft. This whole section that was put forward by Daniel Lanier at Bell Canada on multi-interface. I think there's a pretty large discussion around this. And Victor, I think, put some different ideas. So anyways, I was thinking that there may be something directly from the NGMN.
Do we know what they're, after that manifesto? I don't know if Tom, you said one of your colleagues was one of the authors, if what they plan was kind of their next step after releasing that manifesto?
Not sure, to be honest. I'll ask. If I'm honest, our team aren't normally involved in the NGMN.
Okay.
It's more the kind of team in Vodafone that are linked with it are our R&D team. So it tends to be longer time frame stuff. I think Ricardo was brought in to write, contribute to the manifesto because of the expertise we've got. So he's one of the he's the PTL for Anika RA2, and between him and what we do in this group, there was a bit more knowledge about what should be in there. But I will ask him. Yeah.
So I know some of the folks from there, they're wanting to have move from the higher level on this to some more specific items on I guess the suggestion of that you get in a manifesto, and then even further along to items where you can use when you're talking with vendors and stuff to have more implementation or integration specific questions, some type of list. And that, I think that's kind of a alignment with the idea of what best practices could we have that would support the manifesto. So if they're saying these are the things that we like, then what are some best practices that get these? So I don't know if this is hard for y'all to read. Is this easier? The font was a little small in my mind. So decoupled infrastructure and application lifecycle of vertical monoliths, API first. So these are all high level areas, but we could look at trying to pull out or find best practices that are related to these. Seems like it would be good. Have alignment with them. GitOps principles. So this one, you can look at stuff like how Flux is using the Dash Chef project from Deutsche Telekom, uses GitOps. NIF.io has some GitOps, I think primarily because of the KPT project, which is its like core to NIF.io. They take on a lot of that. The interoperability side, I think there's a lot where you can tie in with that. The Etsy CNF descriptors would be probably an area to explore even on interoperability. Anyways, is there anything, Tom and Rich, especially Oliver, if Matrix has looked at this, where there's an area that y'all think would be good to dig into?
So the bit you just had highlighted, I think, is kind of falls into quite a lot of what we've discussed previously and what Ricardo and I
This
presented.
area?
Yeah. So a lot has been tried in the past by Aniket, by Silver, by others, I'm sure, to kind of define a relatively opinionated, this is what we should ask all telcos to deploy and all CNF vendors to, develop against. And well, it hasn't worked yet, and the signs aren't showing that it will work. So if we had certification processes which could cope with a wider set of opinions and were automated and robust and not adding lots of delay, then that feels to me like that would be valuable, rather than having it's not quite what it's worded like there, but I think the first bit I agree with. We had well-defined certification processes, but that aren't based on opinionated architectures, that are based on flexibility instead.
Tom, maybe I'm just I may be missing your point there. I think I agree with you wholeheartedly, but are you, I mean, if we look at what we're doing within CNF working group, and then the perhaps not always obvious for everyone, but the connection to the the CNF test suite. Do you see that essentially being an I assume the answer is yes, but a viable way to address this as being less opinionated in terms of any specific infrastructure?
Yes.
It's more Kubernetes, of course.
Yeah, agreed. Obviously, the CNF test suite is going to develop over time, but yes, I think it's starting in the right place.
Maybe there's a question for Taylor, and the fact that there's best practices in the work group, and then there's another group that essentially is looking after the test suite. That connection, any ideas on how we can make that connection stronger, or are there risks in your mind of making that connection stronger so that people understand the best practices? I know that we work with best practices, developing those, and then of course we have the test suite, but I don't know that we see the carryover of same individuals from working on best practices to contributing or consuming those tests that are available today in the test suite. I don't know if it's an awareness or just kind of reflecting on what Tom was saying there.
You're there.
I know, I think we need a few more.
Welcome. I'd be welcome anyone that wants to join on both sides. F5, you know, your experience, I think, would be very welcome in the, specifically, I'm saying, Rich, in the testing development. Like what
Okay.
test would be useful? And that's something that Oliver's talking about here. So how to get people involved on both sides. So the reality is that it's going to often be different people and maybe even different teams that are going to have the most interest in each of the areas. And that can tie a little in like what Tom was saying, as far as teams in Vodafone that are more on the R&D side and looking further out in the future, and they're going to affect all of Vodafone, but it may be on a longer time frame before things roll into the production teams that Tom's working on. Well, the way that the CNF working group goes is it's often behind where the development is. So the way I'd look at it, Oliver, is if you go look at the Kubernetes conformance and who's behind that, there's not a Kubernetes conformance team that's developing all the tests. The Kubernetes conformance group is people that are part of Kubernetes architecture, SIG architecture, the Kubernetes SIG testing, and then a bunch of other people that are part of the Kubernetes conformance working group. And there's this combination of people that are talking and saying, what should we have that's part of Kubernetes conformance? So then what is Kubernetes conformance, real quick? It's interoperability between different Kubernetes environments or platforms or products that are using Kubernetes, how to make sure they're interoperable between each other. So that's their main thing. So then going back to it, Oliver, what are we looking at here? Well, SIG testing is who are the primary people developing test. And they're always going to be ahead of the conformance decisions and practices that they're pointing out, saying, hey, these are the most important interoperability items that we want to push forward and say everybody else should follow. They have hundreds more tests beyond what's in Kubernetes conformance that are important as far as testing goes, but they're going to select sets that they think are the most important for that interoperability between the products. We're doing something similar as far as the practices that we're highlighting within the working group, and it's going to be behind. So we want the test suite to be, while we're not testing a single product, it's meant to be able to test anything. So what Matrix is doing, you know, what F5 is doing, what Tom may want to do to check on and onboarding a CNF as an end user, consuming those CNFs. So we want to make sure the test suite is a useful tool everywhere, just like the Kubernetes SIG testing is trying to make the E2E test suite always covering as many of the APIs and whatever functional and unit tests are needed. They're going to try to cover that. And then the other team will eventually come in and highlight any items. So there's overlap, and there are people, like I said, that are part of SIG testing or the architecture team that are helping, that have an understanding of how it all fits together, that end up part of that highlighting what are those most important items. I think we do need that, and to some extent we do have it. We've had people like Litmus Chaos team that have delivered both direct contributions to the test suite, and they've had stuff go into the CNF working group. But yes, we can have more of it. as far as like, how do we get more? I'm not sure, Oliver, other than just, we keep asking. Maybe we could have like a highlight of, push out some PR marketing. We just released this new best practice, Oliver, for single concern. There is a single concern related test. Sometimes there's multiple tests for a best practice because implementation can check multiple things. Maybe we could PR talking about the test suite and the best practice and say, hey, come help contribute, and say, if you want to develop or you want to do something, then come join there. And for going back real quick to pitch and ask for some help or come join us, Rich, if F5 has an area where, like, from the tool test side, if you have something where you would find benefit in some area being tested, then please come talk on the test suite side. A higher level would be working group, but test suite, we would like to make it useful, and then maybe that rolls back the other way. You're already here, come join us over there.
Okay. Yeah, it might be me. I might actually pull in somebody else, like you mentioned, maybe from our dev team. So that's a good suggestion.
Great. And just as a reminder, I said it earlier, but the CNF test suite side, we have a weekly office hours on Tuesday at 7:15 Pacific time. So whoever wants to join there, you can join. If you're using the test suite as a tool and you have questions or you have suggestions or whatever else, you can join that. And GitHub, just, you can drop issues, whatever you want. Oliver, do you have any follow-up? That was your question, comments?
Yeah, no, I think nothing. I don't have anything groundbreaking, but I do like your idea of maybe seeing if we can just go out with a press release. I think it'll just bring some attention to both efforts of the working group in developing best practices, but also the test suite, where you can actually then, use it to test against products that are looking to follow, the best practices for cloud native networking. It doesn't hurt, I guess, if we have the ability to make, continue to make people aware.
All right. Does anyone have any specific ideas or even high-level ideas of best practices related to the NGMN Cloud Native Manifesto? If you don't have any right now, that's fine. And I just ask if y'all would think about it and maybe go chat with your team, especially if you're working on this. Tom, I don't know if there's anybody that could get engaged that was like reaching out to Ricardo and talking to his team, but in my mind, it'd be great to extend from this and say, okay, Vodafone really cares about this set. I mean, obviously they're a part of writing it, but what part did they really care about? And then can we extract some best practices that they may have, or at least know an area where they care about, and then we can dig in.
Yeah, I'll ask around.
And then same thing for, Rich, you and Oliver, if y'all look at it and say, this is an area that we think is important. I mean, these are the people on the list would be y'all's end users. So if we can find something that's most relevant to y'all's software, then that'd help. And then we dig into something that's actually going to be important to you. So this was, I wish there was some more people on this call today, but it's fine. This will be recorded. Maybe we get some more later and can post to the working group channels. So brainstorming, just trying to get an idea so that we can, what do we want to focus on next? So something useful for Silva. There's been some stuff about what's missing I know that the one summit, there was like a fireside chat that's on YouTube now, if y'all haven't seen it. And it was talking about Silva and Aniket and other stuff. And it talked about some missing things, and some of them are like European specific requirements. But there was some other stuff in here. But is that something anyone here is familiar with? Just something missing or things that would be useful for Silva? And reach out to Orange, but if any of y'all are involved more directly with Silva or know someone, then we can pull them in.
I'll ask our contacts in Silver, but I'm not aware of anything.
All right, that sounds good. Thanks. I don't have, oh, maybe I can do it with this. No. No. All right. Okay, this is even higher level. Well, it's kind of high level, but I mean, it could be project area. Like, does anything jumping out like this would be a good area for us to focus in on? And they're saying best practice, it could be best practice, but we may end up, we've talked about writing up some other things as well. I know Victor was wanting to do something around FIO, and we were talking about highlighting practices or areas that would be useful for an FIO, which probably get down into KPT stuff like declarative configuration. That could get into interoperability style best practices. Any of these, Tom, more important to you than others?
Probably the automated testing of validating a new stack or new software.
Yeah.
But that's quite general. That's quite wide.
It's,
And what I mean by that is probably so being able to validate that an application is operating as expected on a platform that's using, let's say, Calico as a CNI, just to pick an example. And then same application deployed onto a platform that's using, let's say, Cillian as a CNI. And obviously those two CNIs have got different features that can be used by applications through the use of annotations, CRDs, etc., etc. And so going back to my earlier point about kind of having a less opinionated set of stacks, it flows into the automated testing by saying, okay, so I'm running the tests, and then, I don't know, a flag is passed saying, you know, which CNI is being used, or the config file, or whatever it is, or it's discovered, whatever. You know, that's a kind of implementation detail, but the validation process, I think, should allow for that variance while still testing for the things that we want to test for, whether that's, you know, behavior under, you know, certain conditions, or ability to control outbound traffic, or whatever.
All right. Anyone else have feedback on that, or do you want to highlight any of the others for an area? What about challenges? Oliver, Rich, is it, how do you say your name again? Kunlai? What was?
Hello, Taylor.
Kunlai?
Yeah,
Abbas,
Bashiro. But call
Abasura.
me.
Okay,
Yeah,
Abasura. Yeah. Does any of this jump out at you as items that y'all do y'all work directly in networking and telecom related domain?
no, no. Yeah, I'm just going through. Yeah, no, yeah, GitOps.
Uh-huh. GitOps. So okay,
Yeah.
so GitOps, do y'all have networking customers and telecommunication customers?
No, 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 no. We don't have telecommunication customers. I could see most of you on. I could see Vodafone. Yeah, but no, no, I don't have telecommunication customers.
All right. Are y'all using GitOps?
Yeah, it's as a principle. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Tom, have y'all started to take GitOps patterns directly, practices and patterns, into how y'all are doing anything? Other than
Yeah,
the research
in
group?
places. Yeah.
All right.
I wouldn't say it's being done at scale across the kind of core of the network, though.
Rich, Oliver, what about y'all? Silence. All right. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Are you asking what are some of our most challenges?
Yeah, either like, is there an area, the best practice that you care more about, or is there challenges that you have that could drive something?
Yeah, I would probably say the GitOps and the automated testing, as Tom already pointed out.
So you'd maybe be a +1 on this as well, Rich?
Yep. And the GitOps.
All right. Oliver?
Yeah, I think I would probably just, I know we've spoke about it before, but I'm not sure exactly how we do it, but I think looking at Nefio, I think down the road, there is obviously some interest in understanding what, what specific, what's expected of a CNF in order to be compatible with Nefio, and it would be ideal that it doesn't end up going, being too opinionated. So looking for the best practice out of Nefio that we can align on, I think that would be interesting. Or understanding the best practices that we have that would be great for Nefio to leverage.
Right.
One of the things that we're also doing, and I don't want to promise any date because I don't know when we'll be able to bring it together, but as any other vendor who's dealing with certifications on different infrastructures, we tend to go through a lot of testing, and we certainly do see some overlaps, but there are areas that are covered by one and not by the other. That would also be maybe interesting to kind of understand where you have more common, where there's commonality, to see if we've got coverage for those kinds of tests as well. And I'm hoping we can do that with our engineering team, is to sort of consolidate a number of tests that we've seen that are overlapping, and then try to recognize whether or not that's covered today. I know that's more maybe test suite, but I think it still backs into what's the best practices behind it.
That sounds good. All right. Well, I feel like we have enough areas that we should be able to maybe start narrowing it down. I'm gonna try to maybe highlight some things that I see this week, and if anyone has specific things, then maybe by next week we can say, here's a set of items, drop some GitHub issues. And I know we have in the current issues, we linked to some Google Docs for drafts. So we'll try to do a draft for anything that looks more likely to talk about. And if you have one that you're more opinionated that we should focus on, then you can start something or drop a GitHub issue, or just reach out to me. I'm happy to get something started. I know that once we had the Google Doc and we could start collaborating either async or in smaller ongoing working sessions, we're able to really move that forward. And I'd like to get that started, by next week at the latest. Actually get going on one. Even if we end up with multiple, it's fine, but we need to get started on one of them. Keep that momentum going. Anything else before we end today's session? Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks, Taylor. Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye.
Taylor.
Thanks, Taylor.
Thanks, Taylor.